Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and yesterday was a pretty entertaining day indeed. Many interesting topics to run through today, mainly around the OpTic Chicago scrims that went on last night. They played two scrim sets, one against Atlanta FaZe, one against the Los Angeles Thieves to my understanding, and both of these certainly had some pretty interesting storylines to run through today. Enjoy to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's hop into things then. So yesterday we talked about Octane, not particularly happy, and for good reason you could argue, with the XM4 GA at the present time. The XM4's gone. In exchange, I mean, there's kind of a battle right now between the ARs and the SMG players that obviously they want their weapons to be the best, whatever they happen to be using. But Octane and the Seattle Surge in New York and also Atlanta FaZe didn't want the XM4 gone because they felt that the exchange right for an XM4, the entire weapon being gone out of the game just for one attachment on the 74U was, well, a little bit left something to be desired, certainly. So the muzzle brake is gone. The muzzle brake or the infantry compensator, whatever you decided to use, you're not allowed to use those anymore. The 4% kind of recoil decrease that gives you, you're not allowed to do that. If you guys have used it without the muzzle, you'll know that, you know, the recoil is somewhat a little bit more difficult to manage, but it's nothing that pros that play the game 8+ hours a day are not going to be able to deal with, right? This recoil increase, especially you can look at a gun like the PPS-8 right from World War II, that behaved in a pretty similar manner. Relatively slow-firing SMG, had a bit of vertical kick, very easy to control though across range, and the pros, of course, were very good with it. And as Brian Slade says right here, coach of the Minnesota Rokkr, the 74U actually might be better without a muzzle, right? So I'm not even sure how this would be possible, but the idea being that at the very least, the 74U is no worse, really, than it was before, and now the XM4 is out the game. And the question is going to be there, I'm sure, in the coming days, potentially. Loony was talking about it yesterday on Twitter as well. How long is it going to be until the pros decide to GA the QBZ for similar reasons that the XM4 is gone? I don't know, man. If that happens, it's going to be more chaos on the timeline. That is certainly true. And as Vivid says right here, and as Slasher says as well, you know, I knew it would end up doing nothing. These rules are in shambles. Without me calling the shots, the Slasher World League certainly needs to come back. But speaking of Slasher and the Los Angeles Thieves, they scrimmed up against OpTic Chicago yesterday. So these last couple of days, Cinder's certainly been putting them to the test. They scrimmed Dallas Empire, I think like 2 days ago. Then last night they scrimmed FaZe, and then Los Angeles Thieves. Right? So the FaZe series, the Dallas series, super close. The Los Angeles series, as we're going to look at in a second here, towards the end of it, didn't exactly go to plan. Let's look at the FaZe series first. So I mean, this was honestly pretty funny. So we'll look at a couple of clips in a second right here. But Cellium has actually been rocking the snake calling card, as you can see right here. I think this is a reward for watching like the championship weekends, as like a calling card that you get if you watched it. And he's been rocking this right now. Well, he certainly is. We'll see Dashy and Formula in a second here, catching Cellium snaking in 4K. It's another absolute classic. This is a clip right here that I'll put on the big screen for you guys as well. But as you can see, Dashy's working his way on Rage right here. See Cellium kind of snaking that heady, gets a nice little two-piece. And there's another clip to a very similar effect on Garrison. And the OpTic guys in this series very frustrated with this, and it does kind of come back to this whole false narrative argument. We'll look at the clips first, then we'll look at the tweets that Cellium came up with a few days ago. But it's certainly frustrating to watch. I don't think a lot of people enjoy watching snaking, especially when you're being snaked. It is very frustrating. Of course, you can see right there the idea that instead of Dashy headglitch in this heady, as he was doing right there, instead, you know, Cellium was kind of going prone, standing back up. Effectively, you go prone, then you sprint out of the prone, and it makes you very difficult to see or to kill. And that is kind of a movement exploit within the game, which a lot of the pros frown upon, right? And there's some players, the likes of Cellium, who since they've come into the scene have always tended to use this mechanic. It's kind of ingrained into their nature, but there's certainly been some frustrations about these players using it, and whether it's even possible to stop players abusing this mechanic.
I'm pitching her. That's snaking, bro. One guy's water stairs.
Pinching Zig. Nice, big pick up.
Yeah, I'm looking at her.
So he's gonna go in lights. He's gonna snake the heady. He's gonna snake the heady around there.
So I know you should play him hard, low key.
You sell?
I'm too off.
One's in vent.
Here he is.
Top green, two top green on me, guys.
Here comes with a slide. Look at top green.
I like top green, watch out.
Hey, dead bottom mid. That was a guy vent.
Lights, sell. Lights. Look at him snaking, bro.
Top green out.
Top green.
Top green on me, guys.
Name top green.
I'm square.
Dude, top green Alec, dude. He's pushed up trash. I think he pushed up
Trash and top green Simp. Yeah, one trash flanking me.
P4.
So every time something like this happens, it does come back to this whole tweet, right? The Cellium tweeted out on the 2nd of March. This false narrative being pushed is nothing but lies. All I do every day is try to improve as a player and work with my team to get better. That is all I will continue to do. So fantastic copy pasta that definitely needs to come out more and more often. I'm sure it will do. And yeah, the OpTic guys were getting frustrated with it yesterday, but as Slasher said not too long ago, what can you really realistically do, right? You can't like blacklist FaZe from scrims until he stops doing it, because they're the best team in the game. You need to get the practice against this squad. So there's arguments either way. I mean, it's just kind of frustrating to watch, in my opinion. I wish it wasn't a thing, but I suppose it's very difficult to GA, because as you saw in that formal clip, it's very possible there that Cellium wasn't snaking. He actually just like slide cancelled into the head glitch, which kind of looks the same thing. So it's kind of difficult to tell if players are using it and if players aren't using it, and therefore it's really difficult to GA, and as a result, until it gets fixed by the developers. Maybe you could add some sort of, I don't think I've talked about this on a video before, but if you guys play Counter-Strike, when you crouch up and down repeatedly, eventually it gives you like a crouch cooldown. You start crouching up and down really slowly. That's certainly an option that they could do right here, to mean that if you snake repeatedly, like, you know, more than 2 times on a head glitch, which is probably where it gets to the point where it's actually being abused, then maybe your movement slows down to some degree that you can't do it repeatedly. I'm not really sure exactly what they could do about it, but certainly something potentially to consider. This then was the other map set. So this is the FaZe scrims, as you can see, 4 to 5 map count. They played Apocalypse a couple of times against FaZe. I mean, a lot of these maps are very close indeed, the controls especially particularly close. Then they went on to scrim Los Angeles Thieves, and it started off pretty competitive, right? Like Apocalypse 250-207, Garrison went the way of Los Angeles Thieves. Then it didn't go to plan for the Thieves, and it kind of fell apart, right? And I believe they scrimmed Thieves a few days ago to a very similar result, so that effectively before they even got to the controls, Thieves just rage quit the scrim set, right? It's really crazy to see how this even went down, right? Because Apocalypse was pretty competitive. Garrison, of course, went in the favor of the Thieves. Then we go into Raid 100 Point Club, Checkmate 100 Point Club, and then we go to Moscow 250-39, and yeah, Thieves had enough. They just quit out the scrim, and there's Cammy skills TJHaLy right here. We'll look at this on the big screen right here. So yeah, 250-39, not the prettiest one. I mean, I remember we saw a similar scoreboard. It is just scrims, it's just practice at the end of the day. It's not really the biggest deal. But at the same time, we have seen these last several days rumors coming out that, I mean, this team is considering potential changes, right? Venom, supposedly from the Weststar team earlier on this season, potentially looking to come in as a substitute here on the Thieves, which certainly says to me, we talked about it yesterday, this team is potentially on thin ice. Who's the player that is on thin ice? Maybe it's Temp. We talked about that possibility yesterday. Kenny might pick up that kind of flex role, then Venom comes in as an SMG partner to TJ. That's a possibility. But certainly, whatever the situation right now, this team is not exactly looking in an ideal spot going into stage 2. They had such a great start to stage 1, had a pretty lackluster finish to it, right? But they're going to certainly need to turn it around very quickly indeed to prove that these guys don't need a roster change, because it's only so long that this team can last before, well, something has to budge. There's no doubt about that, as Grant says yesterday. Like, can you also confirm Venom to Thieves is a thing? Unsure if anyone is getting benched as of yet, though. And Kenny said, we looked at yesterday, it's false that Temp's getting benched, but you could argue it's only a matter of time until something happens if these results continue. Because as you can see right now, Thieves started off the season 4-0 in terms of series count, then they finished it out 5-3 in 5th place in CDL points. If they'd have beaten Empire in that series they went to, they could have actually been first seed in the group. They would have come out in a great spot for the major. Might not have gone too well for them. I mean, that 3-0 defeat to Los Angeles Guerrillas as well wasn't exactly pretty. And these scrim sets these last couple of days, especially the ones against OpTic, just haven't been looking so good, to the point where you do have to argue, is this team just once again going to be an unfortunate situation? Because look, Slasher and Kenny, their teams these last couple of years, they've needed a roster change to actually make something good. We saw it at the start of Black Ops 4. They needed the change. Yeah, FaZe came out the team, Priestahh came into the team. That completely revitalized 100 Thieves. They went on to become the best team in the game. Then last season on OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, a pretty similar story, to be honest, where the team was clearly not working early on. Dashy, I mean, the whole situation was an absolute disaster. They make those changes to take out Dashy and to take out JCap, and they bring in, I mean, Hollow and Drazah towards the end of the season. That team improves drastically. I mean, at the World Championship, they could have even made a better run than they ended up doing, right? So Thieves right now in a bit of a questionable spot. If they don't have the greatest stage here, the group isn't exactly easy, right? I mean, you look at this group here, you'd imagine they're going to get out, somewhere in the winners bracket, but at the same time, LAG beat them last time they played. FaZe are a clear-cut number 1 here, and they could certainly lose to the subliners and Toronto Ultra, I think, and who knows what the Ravens do if they can somehow put together a run. So I think the Thieves should still be okay in this group, but still, it's a little bit risky, and if it doesn't go to plan, you've certainly got to think, okay, roster changes are certainly on the horizon for this team. Just to finish off the video with these Lion Man cards right then, so Atlanta FaZe, the championship cards, pretty incredible stuff to see, to be honest. Simp gets the 99. I mean, this Search and Destroy KD is just out of this world. I mean, honestly, the SD KD across the board is pretty remarkable. Look at this, 1.65, 1.24, 1.25, 1.22, and the hard points, pretty similar stuff as well in the controls as well. Simp with a 1.26. So yeah, this guy completely out of control. You'll notice actually not too many 99s out here compared to some of the other players, and I think JCap makes a pretty good point about this right here. You need to have a way to average out the hardpoint stats depending on the team's map. It certainly would take some calculation to do so, but this is kind of what I was getting at yesterday. But as JCap says right here, FaZe's numbers suggest that they're super average at hardpoint, which is clearly not the case, right? Because in terms of engagements per 10 minutes, you look at aBeZy, for example, he only has 22 kills per 10 minutes, but that's largely because they're playing a lot of the bigger maps. They don't tend to play maps like Crossroads and such, where you get way more engagement, so other teams can actually have higher engagements and look better on the stat lines in terms of engagement rate. But on the whole, it's because they're playing maps that have slightly different pacing. So pretty interesting stuff. Just the final thing I thought I'd mention this as well that attached it. All engineer players that aren't using tac mask, of course, are going to have permanent eye damage by the end of the season, and every AR player as well. Completely garbage right now. Hashtag nerf flashes says attached. So yeah, frustrations I'm sure for many around the scene. And so yeah, potential gentlemen's agreements coming out on the horizon as well, with flashes well on the chopping block once again. But enjoy taking your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.
I'll be back.
Phil thinks he's funny. He has any of the streams on, he loses. Like literally any of them. And a bomb defused at 3 seconds.
You're not gonna check it now. Like...
At 3 seconds. 2.
Yeah, that was the easiest read of my life.
Welcome back.
Okay, nice. Nice. Great clip right there. Took a page out of the World War II book right there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the...
You already know he like got up and was behind his monitor?